Fate is a mysterious force. It can turn the weakest into heroes and the poorest into legends. This is the story of a poor farmer named Harya, whose simple promise changed the fate of an entire kingdom and shocked even the mighty king. In a faraway village surrounded by dense forests and green fields, lived Harya, a poor farmer. His house was a small hut made of mud and straw. He owned nothing but a tiny piece of land and a pair of tired oxen. Every day before sunrise, Harya would plow his fields, sow seeds, and pray to the skies for rain. He knew that if the rains failed, his family would sleep hungry. But what made Harya special was not his poverty. It was his heart. He was honest, humble, and always ready to help his fellow villagers. Though he barely had enough to eat, he never turned away a hungry traveler from his door. His wife, Lada, and their little son, Mohan, were his entire world. One year, the kingdom suffered a terrible drought. The rivers dried up, the crops died, and the people grew desperate. Many farmers abandoned their lands and moved to the city to beg for food. But Harya refused to give up. Every morning he dug wells with his own hands, hoping to find water for his thirsty crops. One evening, as he sat under a tree wiping his sweaty brow, a royal messenger arrived in the village. He brought grim news. The drought had reached the royal granaries too. Even the king's storehouses were empty. To save the people, the king announced that he would reward anyone who could find a way to feed the kingdom. The villagers laughed bitterly. They had nothing left. But Harya stood up. He looked at his fellow villagers and said, "I will not let our children starve. I promise I will bring food to the kingdom. Trust me." People mocked him. "Harya, you can barely feed your own family. How can you feed a whole kingdom?" But Harya ignored their taunts. That night, he sat by his dry fields and prayed under the stars. Then, an idea sparked in his mind. An idea so simple yet so brave. At dawn, Harya left for the royal palace. After 2 days of walking barefoot, he reached the grand gates. Dusty and exhausted, he requested an audience with the king. The guards laughed at him, but his determination moved them. They took him to the court. Standing before the king, Harya folded his hands and said, "Your Majesty, I have come to fulfill my promise. I will feed your people, but I need your trust and a little help." The ministers sneered, but the king, wise and curious, asked, "And what do you need, poor farmer?" Harya replied calmly, "I need seeds, tools, and the freedom to use the barren royal lands outside the city. If you trust me, I promise you will have grain before the next moon." The court burst into laughter. How can one poor farmer grow enough food in a month when no rain has fallen for a year? But the king saw something unshakable in Harya's eyes. He ordered, "Give him what he asks. Let him try. If he fails, he will lose nothing, for he has nothing." Harya bowed deeply. He gathered a handful of loyal farmers and set to work. He dug channels to divert water from an old dried lake bed, using every trick he knew from his ancestors. He worked day and night, plowing the dusty royal lands, sowing seeds with prayers on his lips. His hands bled, his back ached, but his spirit did not break. Seeing his courage, the villagers who once mocked him joined him. Together they carried water in pots, sang songs to keep hope alive, and watched tiny green shoots appear where only dust lay before. Within weeks, the fields outside the palace turned into a sea of green. News spread like wildfire. The poor farmer's promise was coming true. When the king visited the fields himself, he was shocked. He saw farmers working with smiles, crops swaying in the breeze, and hope reborn in the eyes of his starving people.